Welcome back to Thrive Now, the podcast that turns your boldest ideas into practical moves you can make today. Let me ask you this. Is your personal brand really working for you, or are you just creating content that goes nowhere? Well, today I'm sitting down with Gina NacNac, Senior Social Strategist, to explore what it takes to build a brand that's authentic, that's clear, and that actually drives results. We'll talk about the shift from being a content engine to becoming a connector, why authenticity is the new professionalism, and how tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator and in-person networking can help you stop waiting for clients to find you and start building real relationships. So, as you listen, keep this question in mind. Am I prioritizing connection or just content? Let's get into it now. Let's jump right into it. Can you tell everyone a little bit about your background? I found you and connected with you on LinkedIn. I've been seeing all your content and I love it so much. But for the folks who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your work in personal branding.
So my name is Gina NacNac. I'm a senior social media strategist. And essentially what that means is I translate a business's goals into social strategy and content. So primarily I work with a lot of leaders across tech and media, serving both companies and individuals with personal branding. And my background is really rooted in influencer marketing. That's really where my career in marketing started. And then from there, it really just evolved into other aspects of social. And a lot of my experience has really been in building social media programs like channel strategy, content strategy, creator strategy. Through all of that experience, I think just having an opportunity to work across platforms, understanding how to create in a way to drive business goals, that was really like the foundation of my social career. And I really moved into personal branding kind of accidentally. I was creating content and because I was in the influencer marketing space, I wanted to have a presence. And so I was creating content and I got laid off from my corporate job and I started sharing my story just candidly. And that's kind of how my personal brand began. I found that I was able to really create a connection with my audience by sharing my story and my experience. And so that then bubbled up into creating content, which then led up to brand sponsorships and digital products and opening the doors to freelance and consulting work. And so I think that's kind of how my world has come together and evolved.
I love that. And that story rings true for a lot of people who decide to start showing up and showing off their personal brand online and even offline too. But we're throwing around the word personal brand and people might not know what that means. Can you talk a little bit about what personal brand means in your own definition or in your world specifically?
To me, I think personal brand is just how you're representing yourself in the world. What's interesting is we've seen this huge transition where business owners now have to become marketers and content creators because they're the face of their business, right? Especially if they're solopreneurs, they're selling services. So I think this is how personal branding has kind of evolved out of this, okay, I have this set of skills, whether that's selling services or creating content. And now people are thinking about how do I communicate that to the world?
From the perspective of someone who might have a 9-to-5 and they're doing side hustles, how do you approach personal brand? Because you don't want to raise red flags with your company internally, but you still want to get leads for your business.
I know that this is kind of an interesting line to toe because people, on one hand, I've heard being fired for promoting other services. So I think that it is important to be cognizant of those things. Obviously, if you have an exclusivity sort of agreement where you can't be promoting those things, then you shouldn't. But I think that that is something that you should clarify with your employer from the very beginning. This isn't a play where it's like, ask for forgiveness later, because it will literally get you eliminated. So my advice for this is to have a candid and open conversation with your HR department, understand what the requirements and expectations are of you. Once you get clearance on that front, then you can open it up. But to me, personal brand should really be a reflection of everything that you're working on. And so many people want to be a vehicle to support the company that they're working for by really establishing themselves as a thought leader in the space and as an authority. And they also want to do it to promote their own business, whether that's an agency or consulting or freelancing as well. So a lot of times those two things are connected. So for me, I have a social media job and also do social media consulting projects. So from that aspect, it works because I'm just talking about my expertise. But I think for individuals that maybe have something very different, I would definitely suggest to keep those things differently, because people talk about niching down for a reason. It's important. Not only does it create clarity for you, but it creates clarity for your audience and the algorithm. And so having separate dedicated accounts to talk about separate things, I think are also important as well. So if you're in finance and you're doing something in the creative space, it just doesn't make sense to mix those two. So I would suggest kind of separating those things out. But I think that ultimately, your personal brand should serve you and all of the things that you're working on.
That kind of leads me to my next question about authenticity. Sometimes people might feel like they need to show up a certain way in person with their personal brand and then a different way online, maybe because they're not as comfortable with in-person connections or online connections. How would you tell someone to balance that a little bit? How to make sure they're being authentic no matter where they show up?
I love that question. So I got the greatest analogy of this talking to a good friend that I met on LinkedIn. And she said, when authenticity is kind of the difference between when you start a job for the first time, how we're all very buttoned up and speak very professionally, versus how you talk to your colleagues when you've been there for a while. Right. So I think there's kind of just this letting your hair down kind of element about it. And what's funny is that so many of us think really hard about how can I create differentiation, or how can I be unique, or how can I stand out? And the simple answer is to just show up as authentically as yourself, because obviously there's no one like you, right? We don't have to manufacture this uniqueness. We are unique in who we are. And so it's just showing up as our authentic self. That is enough. And when it comes to building real connections with people, it's we're connected to them for who they are. So it's gone are the days of this. I remember before, when I first started off my career in corporate, I used to really look up to people that could use the jargon, all of the professional terms that could literally dance around in circles talking about why we didn't get results just because they're using really fancy words, right?
Exactly.
And it's wow, they're so professional. But now I see it's the complete opposite of that. No one wants to hear the jargon. That it's so tired. That's the fastest way to just create a wall between you and who you're trying to communicate with. And so I think the new professionalism is authenticity, right?
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of what Coach Kessie said yesterday. She focused a lot on authenticity. I think we stress ourselves out a little bit, whether it's in the office or outside the office when we show up online, trying to do things that don't come natural to us. I understand the need to be unique, just by being who you are, basically. So
Yeah.
I love that. When we were getting ready to hop on the call, you talked a bit about not becoming a content engine. So can you talk to me about the new way to show up that's not just creating content all the time, if that's not where you want to go with your personal brand?
In terms of content, should be this shift. A lot of people think that if I create content, I'm going to build an audience of people that are completely engaged with me, and I'm going to be able to sell to that audience. The reality of it is typically we see only 1% to 3% of your audience is going to convert to sales on any given channel, right?
Yeah.
So given those stats, it's not really an acquisition play content nowadays, right? Isn't really an acquisition play. And so what I think is more effective is, yes, create the content, but think of it as more of a foundational element to share your expertise, to provide value to your audience, to share your story and parts of who you are. But if you want to bring in business immediately, you need to treat your social channels as acquisition channels and start finding your ideal clients. Like on Instagram, you can use a tool called Auto IGDM, which can help identify who your ideal client is. And on LinkedIn, you can use a tool like Sales Navigator, where you can plug in specific parameters about your ideal client and find them that way. And then reaching out to them one-on-one and creating that connection and building that relationship, and then inviting them to a podcast or a lead magnet or offering value in some way before we go into direct selling. So I think that is a much better approach, to have a two-pronged approach where you're making those connections both with content and directly connecting with your ideal clients in the DMs.
I love that. It reminds me a lot of, I was telling you earlier too that I read Gary Vee's book, one of his Crushing It. Like he has a lot of versions of it, but that was something he said like 10 years ago, like just go to your DM, ask people, why they're supporting you, why they're following you. So that's something that I've always tried to do even when I connect with folks on LinkedIn. I always want to know, like, oh, thank you for connecting. What can I provide you? How did you find me? Like, these are all like probing questions, but they're important so that you remain engaged with the folks that are in your networks. I need to do a little bit more of that in 2025, but I'm excited to do it. Are there specific things that you found from your past companies that you might have worked with, or some of your consulting work that worked for you the best?
This is a great question because everybody asks this about outbound, right? What actually converts? And what I found is that direct selling does not work, especially not on LinkedIn, because everybody is getting blown, especially if your title is founder or owner, like you are getting hit up all the time. And so direct selling is not that effective. What I have found to be more effective is more of this relationship building. Hey, seen what you're working on, looks really cool, would love to connect and see how I might be able to help, right? And they're going to be able to go on your profile and see, okay, she does social media work. Like, yeah, I would be down to chat with her, you know? And so I think more of that connection, collaboration, how can I help? The podcast strategy I hear is crushing it, because not only does it give you an opportunity to make connections, but also to build that relationship on a call, and then also create content in the meantime, just like what we're doing here. You're actually crushing it. I was going to, you're doing it the right way. And of course, you build that relationship. Now we have this relationship, and, you're going to be the first one that I think about when anybody needs help with their career, right? And so it's less of a direct sell and more of just relationship building, collaboration, seeing how we can partner. That's one initiative that I'm really focused on right now, is building out my roster of MVPs, right? How can I just partner with the best in the business that we can refer business back and forth to? And I think approaching outbound like that is really great. And also just adding value in some sort of way, right? Even if it's not offering to do a podcast or something like that, right? Anything of value that you think that they might come into. I'm working with a client now that they offer real estate investment education. And so they invite people to their weekly Eventbrite webinar, and where they're just giving a ton of value. People get to put together their real estate blueprint. So I think really utilizing that Gary V principle where it's like give, ask, right?
Yeah.
Because then there becomes this like law of reciprocity where it's like, wow, I've gotten so much value from this person. Like, yeah, I would love to see more about what this real estate course or what the next step is in this kind of journey. And I think that's that natural progression of bringing people through your sales cycle, as opposed to just trying to hope that it's going to be this one hit wonder. You're going to reach out, get on a sales call and close. I'm sure that there are people that do that. But I think that you have to be really skilled at lead generation and sales. And for most people, we're not. We're experts in our craft and what we do. And so there's a lot of learning that comes along with that. And I think that, unless you're going to become a really stellar closer right off the bat, the way to go about it is to build relationships and add as much value as possible in the beginning.
Yeah. And that is such a hard shift. Like I've been doing Break Room Buddha for going on 6 years. And it's like, it started off as just all free content, all community building. But yeah, you're right. It's like a mindset shift that you have to make when you want to start landing clients, when you want to start doing partnerships. It's like a learning curve. Quick pause. I know we are having a really great conversation, but I want to share this with you. Have you ever read something online and thought, that could be me, but I don't know where to start? Well, meet Scouta. It's my new career discovery tool that turns anything you're curious about into real opportunities. Highlight a sentence on a website and Scouta will show you jobs, scholarships, career paths, and even people you can connect with that do that exact job that you're interested in. Your future isn't just in your head, it's in your browser. So, the waitlist is officially open for Scouta. I am dropping this super soon, and I want to make sure that you get on this waitlist. So, grab a spot on my waitlist by going to bit.ly/Scouta, SCOUTA-waitlist. WAITLIST to grab your spot. This extension is guaranteed to turn your curiosity into your next big career move and career roadmap. Can't wait to see all of you join the waitlist. Like for people who are currently going through that learning curve, so they might have been like me, just creating a lot of content. And now they're sitting on mounds of content. What's the sort of that mindset shift that they can make to now become like that salesman or saleswoman and get some folks engaged in their community in more authentic ways?
Yeah. So I would just think about making the mindset shift of client acquisition, right? Because I think that a lot of us hope that we're going that our ideal client is out there and they're going to find us through our content and they're going to buy our services, and 1 to 3% of them will, but I would encourage us, me included, to start looking at our social channels as acquisition channels, seeing how you can create a direct path from you to your ideal client and build those relationships, because I don't think it's as much of a passive thing anymore. I think that because there are a very limited few that are able to, stick with creating content for years. This is another thing too, where I think people look at other people and they say, wow, they built this thing. Like a lot of their clients come from content. And it's like, you realize how long that person has been doing that? A lot of times they have been putting in work for years. And I think a lot of people come out the gate thinking that I just have to create, a few pieces of content and I'm going to grow and I'm going to get clients. And it's just unfortunately not that way. I've spoken to influencers and creators that have grown their channels. One of my friends grew his Instagram channel to 1 million in about a year and a half. But he did it by posting 8 pieces of content a day for a year and a
Ooh.
half.
Yeah, that's
You
his
know what I
whole
mean?
life. Yeah.
Right. And then you think about someone like me that's like once a day,
Yeah.
and then disappointed that you're not driving a ton of business. It's like, of course not, because this day and age, it's a different level of commitment. So I'm just kind of harping on this because I really want people to, I hope that they take away from this, that you need to create a more direct path if you want immediate business.
Yeah. Do you think people will have unfair advantages if they start moving more towards in-person connections? So like hosting events, or going to like networking events. Like I just feel like I said this in 2024. I was like, it's the year of in-person, but 2024 was the year of hybrid. Now I really feel like 2025 is the year of in-person.
You are absolutely correct. I am with you on that. I'm experiencing that firsthand. I'm based in Vegas, and there's like every night of the week there's a networking event. Like,
Yeah.
holy moly. Like if you were down to go out every night, you could every day. And I have found that I have gotten way more success by networking in person because again, it's that like relationship building. There's a deeper level of trust, because you're like, I know this person, I'm going to see them around at events. There's also something about community. Like you want to help the people around you that are close to you, whether, you have similar interests, right? You're both there for a reason. And so that's what I find too, is the in-person event. So I'm hosting an Eventbrite event, and I'm like, it's all digital. And I'm like, no, my gut is telling me to change it to in person. So I'm actually going to make that change later on today.
Tell us about the event for folks who might be able to come in person.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's this Saturday in Vegas. It's January 11th at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Wanted to really capitalize on the numerology. But in-person event, it's like a business and brunch event where I'm going to just chat through how you can turn your LinkedIn into a client acquisition channel by working on primarily really clarifying your personal brand, optimizing your LinkedIn profile, and then how you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to make those connections and how you might be able to leverage some automations to help you in that process as well.
That's perfect. All right. I hope some folks watching can meet you in person and get some of that knowledge. So I want to wind us down a little bit, and I want to end on maybe an actionable tip that someone can take. If LinkedIn is their platform, we can focus on LinkedIn because I know a lot of business folks might be watching. But what's one actionable thing that they can do today that will help them reach their audience that they want to reach, maybe show up a little bit differently and authentically like they want to? Maybe just one thing that they can start today.
I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to experiment with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Go in, whether you are on the job market looking for a job, or you're looking to connect with clients or potential collaborators. Hop on the free trial, go in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, plug in those parameters, see how many results you get. And I want you to look at all of those results as an opportunity to convert, right? So thousands and thousands of opportunities to convert, to reach out to those people and make those connections. And when I first started, I was like, I don't want to do outbound. It's too salesy. That's why I got out of sales and into marketing. And I was so, and it was like, because nobody likes to put themselves out there and get rejected. It's just not natural, right? Like, why would you put yourself in that position?
Yeah.
But I'm going to pull from the words of Jen Sincero. She said, you have to want your dreams more than you want your drama.
Oh, I've never heard that. I love that.
So, yes. So get over it and start making those connections. And I promise you will find the people on the other side of those connections are so open and so welcoming. The LinkedIn community has been amazing. And so you will find that it's not as scary as you think it is. And there's just so much more to gain by making real connections.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to end it off because yeah, people underestimate LinkedIn and then they also overestimate how people will respond to them when they start showing up. So I love that advice a lot. All right, so I want to end it with folks coming to you so you don't have to reach out to them. What are some ways that
I do love inbound too. I'm talking a lot about outbound, but I love inbound too.
How can folks find you and reach out to you if they need your services? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Absolutely. LinkedIn. I'm Gina NacNac. So my last name is spelled NacNac. So that's my real last name. It's not a layup to a joke, I promise. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on IG as well. And yeah, please reach out and connect. I would love to connect with more of you genuinely one-on-one. So if you saw this and you'd like to chat, please reach out to me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. That is going to end our day 3. Oh my gosh, we're blowing through this really fast. On the branding of the Thrive Now Challenge, making sure that you are set up for success in 2025 to reach your goals, professional or personal. So thank you all so much. And we will end this session today. Thanks, y'all. And cut. That's a wrap on my conversation with Gina. I loved it so much, and I hope you did too. It really got me thinking a little bit more about how I am connecting with people, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, where it can feel a little bit lackluster sometimes, or people are just not as invested as maybe you are in the relationships that you're building. So a lot of social media platforms are like that. It's not just LinkedIn. It could be Instagram. It could be TikTok. It could be whatever other platforms you're using. But I hope this conversation helped you think a little bit deeper about how you're showing up online, the people that are in your circle, and then what that all means for your personal brand. I want to make sure that you are taking this from the conversation that I just had with Gina, that personal branding is not about posting nonstop. It's about showing up and being clear about who you are, what you do, and being authentic, and then also building lasting relationships. So yes, that means sometimes you may have to log offline and go in person and connect with people that you might have never connected with before. So yes, that means networking communities. That means doing some things that are outside of your comfort zone. And then I want to leave you with this reflection as well. So get your pen and paper out, your journal, whatever you've been documenting all your notes in as you listen to these episodes, and answer this question for yourself. How can you shift your energy this week from creating content to creating connection? It's a very clear and simple question, and I just hope everybody takes the time to pause this episode, and dive into that question. So, here are some ideas. Maybe it's sending one genuine DM and checking in on someone that you're already connected with. So that means you're not chasing new connections, you're fostering and warming the connections that you already have. Maybe it's reaching out to collaborate with someone. I know last week I reached out about a collaboration, and I just had a meeting that's moving forward, and we are going to start seeing some new things pop up on my feed or that person's feed. More to come. And then maybe it's showing up at an in-person event like I mentioned before. I don't know what city you live in, but in the city that I live in, Eventbrite is owning this town. So I'm always on Eventbrite signing up for stuff, and that won't stop anytime soon. So that is how I'm getting my in-person networking fix. Figure out what that is in your city. Maybe it's Luma, maybe it's another platform, but figure out what it is and start signing up and showing up to some in-person stuff. Before I let you go, when you have your answer, I want to hear it. Submit it to my dream database as a voice note, and I'll take a listen to it, and then I'll start sharing what you say, because a lot of people get stuck, like telling their friends or maybe their family or maybe not telling anyone at all. And the whole purpose of my dream database is for you to release your dreams and your thoughts out into the world. And then I give you an even bigger stage to get that message out. So maybe someone can connect with you, and maybe I can bring someone on the show who can actually help you take the necessary steps to achieve the dream that you've voiced. Whatever it may be, I want to hear it. My dream database link will always be in the show notes. And once I start receiving those voice notes, they will start to be played on these episodes and across my social. So don't be nervous. I want to give you a stage. I want to broadcast your dreams because they deserve to be heard and you deserve to act on them. So I'm going to close this out by saying, remember, content gets scrolled past, but connection always sticks. So make sure that you are really making those connections. Let's keep thriving together, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.